good life in accordance to Camus, will just pass through that, almost ethereally, passing through all that absurdity, passing through that chain of these absurd phenomena, like this one, of traveling negative emotion. Yeah, so these are all the examples that I prepared, but this doesn't basically conclude the whole point of the presentation, because there are certain other questions that I wanted to ask you. Maybe you can answer me if you think. Well, pretty much in social psychology, there is a theory that states that there are two types of people in societies. Of course, there are varying degrees of these two individuals. One type of these individuals are the so-called thrill seekers. Don't let the name confuse you. It doesn't exactly mean that these people are like, bungee jumpers or want to take paratrooping every week. No, there are varying degrees of these people. Some of them are just like, are going to speed over the limit every time they drive, but usually they're pretty much calm and normal people. But still, the emphasis is, in regards to these individuals, on adventure, self-determination, trying out something new. These people like change. On the other hand, you have the security seekers. These are the people who dislike change, like stability in their life, and aren't exactly adventurous. Now, in regards to these two groups of individuals, even though there might be a section in which they do intersect, which is pretty much obvious when trying to categorize humans into groups, wouldn't that imply that pretty much good life is relative depending on these particular wants that these groups of individuals have? Or is it more like there is a certain common theme of what a good life is that would surround all of humanity, and these would just deal with the particular details? Kind of like, even though a thrill seeker seeks change, adventure, he might still want security. And a person who is a security seeker, even though he likes security, peace, not change, he would get really bored if he would just stick to it. He would also want certain degrees of excitement, certain things that interest him. Well, yeah, I guess that's all I want to say. Well, don't you guys have? So what do you think? A good life is full of stress, or is it a life that is peaceful and happy?
I just wanted to get back to what you said. Talking about Aristotle, Stoicism, hedonism. You called yourself a determinist.
Yes.
Several of that. I tend to think that I'm a soft determinist. I believe that we are determined insofar as we are caught up in the body. In that, what I think Stoics were trying to say when they were going with the flow, the Stoics were referring to what in Greek is called a nous, which is really nous is a mind. Nous in Greek means mind. Also suke. But what the Stoics thought, that there was a rational order in the universe, and that if you give yourself freely to that rational order, then in a sense you're determined. In a sense, it's like a machine. All the parts in the machine have to function harmoniously to produce something, or like a symphony. All the instruments in a symphony have to play harmoniously to create that harmonious sound. But just like the universe is a harmonious, living, existing thing, that you are a part of that whole. And if you give yourself to that whole, you become part of you become part of that greater become part of that greater whole. You become part of that universal, if you want to call it universal. So you go, you give yourself up, like you give yourself up to that. Now to get to hedonism, you talk of hedonism, I believe hedonism is a form of Satanism. Because all hedonism really proposes is it's a materialistic philosophy, materialism. And it you know, if you're a materialist, you're gonna find pleasure in material things. You're gonna find pleasure in the body. You're gonna find desires in the body and flesh and certain things. But to say that I personally think that the good life is the transcendental life, because the transcendental life is the abstract life. It's the life where you were talking about the doctor who was caught up in, you know, in this character, Dr. Ryu, French, Ryu.
Yes.
Ryu.
Let's just call him Dr. Bernard. It's a lot easier.
But that you know, that amidst all this chaos, he was able to transcend it. He transcended the chaos. He transcended the body. What did the Greeks? What did Plato say in using Socrates? Transcend. You say transcend the body.
No, I sorry for kind of going back to the earlier point you made, but I kind of failed to see how a doctor was transcended the body.
Well, he transcended the sense. He transcended the situation. He transcended the moment.
Mm-hmm.
He transcended He transcended the chaos, in a sense. For me, I see in a sense a body. I see. He's not attached to He's not attached to externals.
The trouble is that with Ryu, you have the sense that when he's transcending, there's no final solace because
Mm-hmm.
the universe is absurd and meaningless.
Yeah.
So, in a way, what his stance turns into is just kind of an obstinacy. He's going to keep on doing it even if it doesn't make sense, you know.
Exactly.
And that obstinate stance kind of gets stuck in its tracks, like he can't really get beyond himself towards something greater than he is, because what?
Because
It's
life is a struggle.
Repetitive pattern
Mm-hmm.
of what? Just being obstinately dedicated to helping people, even if it does no good in the ultimate sense. You know?
And even the help itself is meaningless. Though.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not exactly meaningless. It does
I
make
think Camus would argue that it is meaningless.
No, it's not. Basically, the point is that this struggle actually does give meaning. The struggle is what gives the meaning, the situation the meaning.
I think that it's more that he gives his life meaning in the struggle, but he doesn't kid himself that it's basically part of a larger whole. That
Oh
makes
yeah,
sense.
you're right.
The
He
meaning
doesn't
is
do that.
only the decision that it's meaningful in the play. He just decides
Mhm.
that it's meaningful and it's okay just telling himself it's meaningful. You know what I mean? But there's nothing,
I see.
there's no reason why he should save other people's lives, because their life is just as meaningless
It's
as
not
a
easy.
rock.
Oh no,
It's
no,
not
no,
easy
no.
for him to live in the first
But
place.
he loves them.
But
And that's,
yes, so
but
there is
that- but there's
so
no
there is a
meaning in the love. Is the important part, is that he chooses to do that. And it's his choice, despite the absurd situation where his love doesn't matter and his actions don't matter. You know what I mean? Because there is nothing above that. You know, to make it matter too. You know what I mean? And so, despite those things, he's still going to do that. You know, but it's not that it creates meaning or somehow meaning comes out of that. It just decides.
I'm looking at this situation in the relation of cause and effect. As in, you might say that, well, pretty much it's his love for the people that is meaningless, but makes him do these things, help these people. So I see cause effect, as in love causes him to do that. Cause effect in this regard is the meaning. That's what I was referring to in regards to meaning.
Okay. But I was referring to meaning as in its relation or importance to something
No.
transcendent.
Wouldn't be Camus.
The thing is that it's important too that Camus decided to have him fight against the plague, where he's bound to lose because the plague is going to kill all these people no matter what he does. All he can do is relieve their symptoms, make them feel a little bit better while they're in the process of dying, but he can't really save them. So, but he keeps on working at it anyway, and that's I think what makes the whole thing properly absurd in Camus' sense.
But isn't that basically a metaphor for actual real life? I mean,
It is for
we're
the
all good-
existentialists. I mean, I'm sorry to
Okay, of course, man.
the existentialists all have different. There's a lot of different stripes of existentialists, but this is something they share in common: that you are faced with a mortal life. You know, you're going to die, and you're stuck with just this finite amount of time. What are you going to do with it? And so Camus is like, well, you just got to do something. What else? That's it.
Yeah, or
You know?
lay down and die.
Or lay down, and Kierkegaard and Nietzsche both have similar ideas in that whatever meaning there is in life, it's that you're choosing to do it. Yeah, and that it's not to be found anywhere else except in your choice, even if it doesn't make any sense outside of you. At least for the existentialist, that's what meaning is. And I don't even. It's hard to imagine Camus thinking that Dr. Ryu is having a good life, or anybody's having a good life. But he does say that an obstinate life has something going for it. Right.
Well,
And that's
Yeah, but it's the idea that whatever if there is.
Sorry for interrupting you, but
Yeah.
this is my point. You're automatically making this assumption that a good life is a happy life.
No, not at all. I'm not suggesting that these people are having a bad life because they're unhappy, but the idea of like a good life generally is sort of foreign to the existentialist worldview, because for them it's like, well, there's no really good life. There's just what you're stuck with.
There's no really happy life.
Well, either way, I think
Good life.
I see your point that
Yes.
that given the circumstances of life for an existentialist, even if you're not happy, maybe it's the best you can do is to make your choice and stick with it.
Jesse?
I think they'd say there's no absolutely happy life, but in context you could find happiness. In the myth of Sisyphus, which is an explication of the stranger, Camus talks about Sisyphus is, it's the whole absurdity thing, it's a different tale. He's condemned to push the boulder up the hill, it just rolls back down, meaningless, absurd, futile. But he says that Sisyphus would learn to love the contours of the boulder. And if he loved it, if he can learn to love the contours of the boulder, that's the only thing he's doing. So he's embraced his situation contextually. He could be very happy. He could live a happy life.
It's because he's given up the consolation that the universe or God is going to kind of applaud what he's doing.
Right.
There is no meaningful universe. There is no God, and therefore you're going to do it without the consolation of what a higher power or the universe itself sort of, applauding what you're up to. You're just doing it for your own sake.
So it's not absolutely happy.
But to say that they didn't believe that you could have happiness, I think is incorrect, because his first book, Camus' first book, A Happy Death, is called A Happy Death. You know what I mean? And I certainly think, and it's kind of the sort of prelude or the first attempt at the stranger. And I think if you take, it depends on what your definition of happiness is, but if your definition of happiness is kind of a form of St. Thomas is happiness, conscious possession of the good, then if you know the truth about your situation, the meaningless, absurd situation, if you know the truth, then that's all you need for happiness. As Camus argues, that once you know these things, once you have these realizations, it detaches you from those desires to have a God, to have someone applauding, to have reward and punishment for your actions. Once you detach from those things, what else is happiness? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, that's the one.
I would like to go back to your last question that you asked. You asked what's a good life. I think first we need to ask, why are we